Good morning. It is February 3rd. It's 9 o'clock. This is the Budget and Finance Committee meeting. My name is Ann Becknell, and I'm calling this meeting to order. If you could, please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We do have a quorum of the Budget and Finance Committee here today, and I'm going to read the meeting procedures statement. The governing board and its committee conduct all of their meetings in compliance with Arizona Plan Community Association open meeting laws per ARS 33-1804 and in concert with RCSCW bylaws, policies, and standing rules. Parliamentary procedures as outlined in the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order will also be followed in all meetings as appropriate, consistent with Bylaw 3.07, procedures for owner-member meetings, and Standing Rules number 2 and 3. Thank you very much. And we will turn to the agenda. First item on the agenda, 2.01, approval of the minutes from the January 20th meeting, 2026. Do I have any comments or questions from the committee? I see none. I see no comments online, and I see no one in the audience coming up to ask any questions. So we will accept those minutes as approved, and we will move on. The first item on the agenda today is to have a report from Cap Trust. Carol Romney and Nathan Erickson are here to give us a presentation on our Cap Trust investments. Oop, did I have a third person I missed? No. Oh, Ryan. I'm sorry, Ryan.
We are your Cap Trust team, and we're going to change it up a little bit today. I'll be doing a little market commentary, and then Ryan Raffiti will report on the fourth quarter performance for the portfolio as well as end-of-year numbers. Really fun slide here, and I'll let you get out your magnifying glass in your own time and look at all of these different points on here. But what we're looking at is the S&P 500 over 2025. I think it really puts some things into perspective for last year. About this time last year, DeepSeek came out and caused a whole bunch of market volatility. This was a surprise China AI thing that came out. It seemed like to me, you know, knowing all the events that happened last year, it just seemed so long ago. Since then, we saw the volatility with Liberation Day, and a lot of the tariffs took place, and lots of activity took place last year. You can see in June, if I can get this, there we go. Right about here in June is right when the portfolio was rebalanced to go from 10% equities to 25% equities. At that point in time, we really had no idea what the rest of this chart would look like. It was favorable, and I won't steal Ryan's thunder when he does the portfolio review, but you had a good year last year within the portfolio. All of this to say is that, you know, we're now in 2026. I have no idea what is going to play out this year, but just a reminder to keep the portfolio aligned with your objectives, and we keep in constant contact with your organization with the cash flows and making sure that it is aligned with your objectives going forward and your needs. 2025 was definitely a year to be invested. What we just saw there was the S&P 500 ending up the year about 18%, which is a spectacular number. What we also saw last year was international came in, and you do have international exposure within your portfolio. At the moment, there is a slightly higher bent towards international than the market weights, global market weight, and we feel that's the appropriate place. But everything was positive. Your commodities, last year, almost 16%. Gold was a huge driver, silver part of that as well. Small caps did well with interest rates being targeted lower by the Federal Reserve. Your portfolio is 75% fixed income. Bonds achieved about 7.3% last year, and real estate sector was up for the year as well. Fourth quarter, all of these sectors were up. You do have some exposure to all of these, except for the real estate component was down for the quarter. And we'll just look at fixed income drivers. You can see at the end of the year, we saw widening between the 1-year and 10-year treasury, just a steepening of the yield curve. And we look at that just because you're 75% fixed income. We just like to monitor the sensitivity of interest rates within the portfolio, and we saw that steepen. Economic outlook, some headwinds and tailwinds. Real world limits here, we see that there's a ton of dollars that are trying to go into AI spending. You look at some of the largest stocks out there that are internet type stocks and artificial intelligence type stocks, and they need infrastructure, they need buildings, they need power, and there are some limits there. The flip side of that, the tailwinds, is that all of the spending that goes into that does create jobs. Policy squeeze, we see some costs being spent on some immigration and tariffs. Some of this costs money. When you have more expenditures than income, it can put upward pressure on interest rates. At the same time, we see broadening base, not just in the US, but internationally as well, with lower interest rates that will boost some spending with all companies, not just the AI-focused companies. That's a little bit of market commentary. We'll see what this year, we'll bring this chart up again in a year from now and see how the rest of this year plays out. If you have any questions, otherwise we'll jump into the portfolio review.
I see that the international stocks are up like 30% or more. How much is that dedicated to the fact that the dollar is valued lower, and how much is it that where they're doing really well, internally?
Yeah, we did have a chart last year that showed, and it depends. You have your emerging markets, and then you have your international stocks, and they'll have different drivers to them. For some of your developed markets, almost roughly half of it was from the weakening dollar, and it was at different points during the year. So if you want to see exactly at end of fourth quarter what that is, I could go get the research and provide that. Yeah, for some of the developed markets.
The other driver is they invested more in their own economies, particularly spending.
Come to the mic, please.
Yeah, sorry. The other driver was domestic investment in defense spending for the most part.
Alrighty, now for the fun stuff, right? Looking at the return for the rest of the year and previous quarter. So if we look here at the chart, if we look at that second column from the left, that's the year to date. So that's through 12/31 performance numbers. You can see here that the beginning market value of the portfolio started at $28.7 million. The net investment return for the year is just shy of $3.1 million to end off the year's ending market value at $3.97 million. $521,000 was returned in the last 3 months of the year, so the final quarter of the year. And you see that there's a net outflow from the portfolio of $2.267 million, and this was to cover some expenditures for rec centers of Sun City West. Here we're looking at the historical allocation of the portfolio over the last 12 quarters. You can see the allocation shift in June of 25 this year, where we see an increase in equities that we discussed, that Carol mentioned earlier. And this increase in equities was a primary driver from the committee to help grow the portfolio to beat inflation, and also to fund any future capital expenditures from Sun City West. And so we see here that the allocation is around 74% fixed income right now, which is in line with its target allocation set in the IPS of 75%. The U.S. equity allocation as at 15.57%, in line with the target allocation of 16.25%. In total, international equities sit at about 9.45%, again, within the bounds of plus or minus 5% from the target allocation stated in the IPS. So we're in compliance there with the allocation of the portfolio. Looking here, the primary point to bring up here is that there's a rule inside your IPS where no position can hold more than 20% inside the portfolio. And so we see that stated here, listed that no position is near that 20% cap on one spot. Looking here at the portfolio performance, we see the trailing performance listed up here in the top chart for the last 3 months is your portfolio has returned 1.59% on a trailing return basis, and for the last year, 10%. This is in line with the calendar year performance as well that you see in the bottom chart for 2025, returning 10%. And for a portfolio that was relatively mostly fixed income for majority of the year and only 25% equities for about half the year, this is a really good return that we're seeing from the portfolio, and we're really happy to see it this year. Here, a part of your FI12 rules, it states that there needs to be proper diversification across fixed income securities. And so that was one important thing that we wanted to point out here, that is being held true with a duration of 5.75% and an SEC yield of about 4.18% across these multiple positions, including the fixed income. And so again, wanting to adhere to the rules inside the FI12 and the IPS listed. In Q4, we did see some trade activity. As you saw on the previous page, there was an outflow of 2.26 million, or at 2.26 million. So when that occurred, we did have to do some rebalancing. We trimmed some from equities and we trimmed some from fixed income, and brought the total weights back to about 25.75. Any questions on any of those previous slides on performance or trading activity?
How often do you rebalance?
We look at it quarterly based on weights. Carol and Nathan, please chime in. But we look at it quarterly based on weights, and we also look at it when we raise funds. We want to make sure that we're staying within the target allocations, and so typically it's quarterly, and then if there's a rebalance needed, balance it then.
We won't be raising any funds this year. So that won't happen this year. After we complete our fiscal year, after our audit, we'll be sending funds to the reserve fund this year. Account for that, you have to model.
Yeah. So new contributions are also an opportunity for us to make sure we're within targets. Money in or money out.
Finished?
Yep, we're all done.
Does the committee have any questions? I don't see any questions. Any questions from the audience? No participation there, and there's no questions online. Thank you very much. Very good presentation. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to 4.02. We're going to talk about the capital improvement budget and projects. And we are welcoming Herschel to the mic to start off with our capital improvement project plan. Welcome, Herschel.
Good morning. Basically, I have no updates or changes to the last presentation you saw. I can give you a little bit of information on the ARC project. I received the architectural drawings last week. I passed them on to the ARC Club for them to send off to their steel supplier to get some numbers from him. I've also contacted a vendor, met with him later last week, and we went over the project, and he's going to get me some budget numbers by next month's meeting.
Can I ask one question that was asked of me by one of our owner members? What kind of a, I guess I don't know the right name, environmental evaluation have you done on what it's going to cost to air condition that glassed-in area? You know, when you put that glass around that, it's going to get pretty warm in there because it's going to have the full sun coming right through it. Have we thought about the cost or the extra air conditioning that's going to be required, electricity and so on?
I haven't looked at a utility cost for that facility. However, the engineers have taken that into account in their design for the glass that they're going to put in the facility as well as the units that they'll be using.
So you're saying, does the design plans call for additional air conditioning?
Design plans are going to call for air conditioning of that space. Yes.
Okay, and so we don't know what the cost of that might be then.
Yeah, and I also don't know what the art club's intention is for use of this space. In other words, is it going to be air conditioned every day, or they're only going to condition it for special events? I have no idea what their intended use is.
That would seem important to find out that information as well, how we're going to utilize that facility, to understand the real cost, because the physical cost is one thing, and then the ongoing cost, electricity and so on, is a concern for a lot of people. Committee questions? Don?
Just a comment. We looked at putting new windows in our house. New windows nowadays transmit very little heat through them if you get the proper windows. There's been major advances in windows in insulation.
And if you look at any new structure, you drive on the north side of the 101 or go down to Tempe, they're not making buildings with steel and on the outside and stuff. It's glass. So glass has come a long ways.
Yeah.
And when they're constructing these facilities, they're encased in glass. So
I think it'll just be important for the residents to understand that we're getting a certain kind of glass that's going to be heat resistant, and I think there's a lot of just general concern over the cost of the monthly utilization. Another question, Don?
Have the architects looked at the glass they're going to be using so that it is not reflective into the traffic that comes in and out near the Arc building, and especially also on Mercer Avenue? Because you're going to get a lot of reflection from that glass going out.
Potentially. However, you have to look at the fact that this building is a low to the ground. If you look at a typical skyscraper or a high-rise, the sun reflects off of a building or glass the same way it does off of a mirror. So if the sun is up here reflecting off of at a 30-degree angle coming down, that reflects right back into the ground at 30-degree angles, not straight on and straight back into a driver's eyes, which is basically at that same elevation as the glass going down the road.
But the sun is not always up that high also. And it goes down, and especially in the winter months, and it's going to hit, or excuse me, in the summer months, it's going to hit very close to what people are doing driving on Mercer, especially if they go into the area right by the Arc building. That's my biggest concern, because that exposes the rec center to an awful lot of possible litigation.
They have glasses that are made to reduce that reflectivity.
Do we know that?
Yes, they have glasses that are made to reduce.
But do we know that it's also in the plans? That
I can check with the plan.
We don't have the plans yet, so you can't answer that question. Rick?
This is the third time we've seen all this information. Are we gonna get presentations from our committee and how they're gonna pay for it? Now it's gonna, get through the process. Second thing is all these other projects that some of these are controversial. Are we gonna have people come up and sell their pitch on why we should do these things? I mean, I haven't seen any justification for any of these. It's just a list right now. And how are we supposed to make the financial decision whether these are the right projects to do or not? I'm just questioning that.
I can answer that.
Cliff?
Yeah. Platform tennis is going to be presented today, so tennis is on the agenda for today. ARC will be on the agenda. We're still gathering the details of the project, so it's a little premature for them to present, but they will be presenting. I would say everything else is what it is in terms of the projects all the rest of the projects that are on the docket. So if there's something you want to see or some additional information you'd like to have, ask us for that information or ask us for some more details. We can get it for you. But As far as the platform tennis and ARC is concerned, more details to come and more presentations on those projects.
Thank you, Cliff.
Yep.
Dave?
So, in relation to that, I think one of the controversial things is this moving the ball machines to the driving range, and I think it's controversial for two reasons. One is the amount of money it costs, but the other is I don't really think it aligns with the strategic plan, because the strategic plan talks about enhancing the driving range, putting more tables and chairs, sort of like a gathering area. If we move ball machines there, they're going to be noisy out there, and people are going to complain about that when they're out at the driving range. So we're kind of shooting ourselves in the foot, in my opinion, if we do this project. So is there somebody going to be making the argument that we should do it? Because I don't really, in my opinion, it doesn't seem like a wise use of $100,000. So.
Okay, so just to be clear, we jumped from the ARC building to the golf ball, the range ball machines. Okay, all right. Did anybody else have any comments with regards to the ARC facility? Yes, Bill?
I think there should be definitely some discussion regarding the glass, because I also have replaced a lot of glass with the heat prevention windows, and they reflect a lot, not the light, but when you look into them, you can't see very well. And I'm sure that ARC wants people to look into their showroom, and they're going to want very transparent glass. So I think there should be some real discussion around how that works and how it affects everything.
And I think what Herschel has said is that we don't have definitive plans that you can share with us at this point, so that we can debate the value of the individual enhancements that would be made, right? So I think until we have those definitive plans, this is just a really nice line item that we can just keep skipping over until we have something more to really discuss. Because I think this committee's ready to do a deep dive on what that's going to be from a physical perspective, and then also from a cost perspective, what's that going to look like? So until we have that, I think we'll just put an X on this topic until they have some final data to give us. Does that sound reasonable?
Can we put some kind of deadline on that? Of when we're gonna get it, or when we're gonna want it by?
Well, I would have hoped we'd have had it by now, but I don't know. Herschel, is there a deadline you think you can give us?
So I'll have a budget number for you by this meeting next month for the project. I'll have
The first week of March?
first week of March.
Because we have 2 meetings a month, so you're talking
Yeah.
the first meeting of March.
I could potentially have it by your second meeting this month, but I'm not going to commit to that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go
Okay.
with the first meeting next month.
So by the first meeting in March, we'll have some definitive numbers and we
I
can make
I
some
can
better
answer your
decisions.
questions regarding the glass that's being used and the thermal quality of that glass, reflectivity and that kind of.
All right?
And we'll present it when we have it. So we won't wait for the Budget and Finance Committee to present it. If it comes in the middle of a cycle, we'll present it at the next meeting, whether it be properties or governing board workshop or Budget and Finance. As soon as we have it, we'll start presenting it. So we'll have as soon as we have the data, we'll get it out there. But this committee needs to vote on the pullouts, or what they would like to see pulled out and voted on individually by the governing board by the end of March. And we have the budget timeline coming up here in a little bit, and that explains that as well,
All right.
as far as the timelines and the deliverables when they're due.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any comments or questions about ARC? Okay,
Once we get the correct numbers for ARC, it is my understanding that ARC still has not gotten a vote of all their membership as to whether they want to go and do this or not. Is that correct?
Yes, that's one of the things that has to happen as well.
That should come before, once they get the numbers, that should be done very quickly.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I'm just saying.
That's the plan.
That's a very important thing. I want to
Of
make
course.
sure that their membership really wants to do this.
Absolutely, as do we.
yeah. Good. All right, we'll move on from ARC. We heard Dave with his comments about the range ball machines. Anybody else have any comments about that? Rick?
Well, if you do the quick math, you got to sell 10,000 small buckets of balls to justify one of those machines. So at $3 a bucket, you have to send, 10,000 to break even for 1 year for one machine. That equivalent to selling, 7 houses in 1 year to support one ball machine? So put this all in perspective. And once you start looking at that, is that the right thing to do for our driving range?
So are the numbers that we have for the relocation of the range ball machines, are those definitive numbers? Are those absolute?
So what I can tell you, this was a project that Pat and I don't know if Carl was even working on it before I showed up, so those are the numbers I was given for this project. I don't know how they achieved those numbers or how they came by. If it went by the standard procedure that they've done for all the projects, they probably went out, got a vendor to come in and give them a quote for those, but I can't answer that question.
So I can add a little detail to that, because those numbers were scoped out last year and then presented to the golf committee, and the golf committee did not vote to make the recommendation to put it in the capital improvement budget for last year's capital improvement or this year's. This year, with those numbers, they voted they agreed to recommend it to be put on the capital improvement. So that's how it got on the list from the committee, request by the committee. Just like platform tennis got on the list from a request from properties. So that's how things get added to the budget per se, if they're not an R&R item that operations is recommending to put on the list. So that's how those get on the list. There's a lot of discussions and a lot of detail that are given at those various committees. That's kind of where things kind of bubble up sometimes. And that's where both of those projects bubbled up. And now we're presenting additional data, information to this committee upon request. And if there's more data and information you'd like on the ball machines, we can provide that. Yeah.
Don, you have a question?
When we're talking about the $100,000, is that for one or three? Okay.
Question.
Don.
I talked with 2 out of the 3 golf places, and I've played at all 3 of them. 2 of them, the ball machines are right near where you also wind up getting ice. It can be disturbing to those people that get together, that sit down to play or have a beer or 2 after playing golf. But if you take the ball machines out, you still got those ice machines right there, and they make just as much noise as the ball machines. Actually, probably more, because people are getting ice a lot more than they're getting balls. So I'm kind of between. I understand why they want to do it. I understand because they get enough complaints in the golf shop. So I would like to try to really get a lot clearer information as to how important this really is to help our people.
Chris?
Yeah, I hear a lot of talk about the noise of the ball machine. I feel like there's other advantages of moving the ball machine. We had a magic wand, and where would you put them? You'd put them out by the range. So number one, they probably belong there. Number two, don't forget, it's just balls bounce around across the parking lot, and we've got people chasing after them. It's a pain in the neck. And then if I understand the proposal correctly, it's also at the same time an opportunity to bring power across the parking lot so that that area can be used for more things than just a driving range, right? So for, like they just had the event at Stardust, right? It sure would have been nice to have power, at all of our ranges. So I don't like the price any more than anybody else does, but I like the project. I kind of support the project at this moment, but I think it's a good, healthy discussion. We talk some more.
Anyone else have any comments? Mickey?
Yeah, so just to follow up a little bit on what Rick was saying is, and others, is that I do think that some of these get pulled out and we think about it as a standalone project, when really, in fact, if you're looking at what our long-range plans are, and if there are things that we will do within the next couple of years within a long-range plan that this could be brought into that, so that you would then be not only doing the range balls, but now you're also improving the course itself, or that part of it. And that's probably my biggest comment around a lot of these things, is that they feel like a little one-off when it really should be brought into a longer vision. So as part of maybe a bigger project that happens within the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. Okay, so that's really my comment. And I feel the same way about several of these other projects, is that they seem expensive and one-off, and may actually hinder and cause another broader project to become more expensive or have to be redone. So I actually think the range ball relocation, it's a great idea, right? I mean, it's a great idea, it makes sense, but does it make sense in terms of a bigger project as opposed to this little project? That's my comment.
Thank you, Mickey. Anybody else? Bill?
I know that I've avoided using the ball machines that are up by the clubhouse, and in view of the courses where they're on the range, I do use one over the other. I wonder if there's any data on the use of the ranges based on where the machines are located. It'd be interesting to look at that.
Yeah, we have the data to look at the sales at each range. I think there's a lot of different dynamics to why one range might be used over another. I'm not sure that the range ball dispenser location is one of them. Maybe it is. We could take a look at it.
All right. Any other comments or questions?
Just one thing, I think both Chris and Mickey made an important point, and that is for all of our projects that we look at, there are complementary components to the fact that we do some of these infrastructure upgrades or changes, and that should be part of our information that's provided to us. They see that advantage. Likewise, if they're going to move those ball machines, and if there's going to have an advantage for future power use, I hope that's being considered at that time, so that it's built at that level, so that it can be used for additional purposes in the future.
That is scoped into these projects, the electrical, and each one of these are standardized, but could potentially a little bit more or a little bit less depending on the panel space, also the distance to the range itself, things like that. So, but the structures themselves are pretty consistent.
Anything else? All right. Did you have something else you wanted to present, Herschel? Or was this,
The platform, Tim?
oh, we have one more question from Chris?
Hey, Herschel, my bad, I didn't go and check. Did we hang that light in the Billy's room yet?
Well, it's happening this week.
All right, this week it should be there?
It's supposed to
Great.
be happening Thursday, I believe.
All right, I'm pretty excited to see that. Thanks.
Two other quick updates. The area out at R.H. Johnson with the furniture, we're still waiting on the quote back from that, so we're actively pursuing that. Again, once we have that data, we'll present it in a capital update. And then the other thing is the softball fence. We've worked with the softball club, and they're going to contribute $50,000 to that project. We have funds from the sponsorships on the billboards that they've collected, and we have enough funds for them to contribute $50,000 to the overall project. So that'll get applied in the capital section of the income statement. It'll still be on the capital improvement budget at the same amount, but we'll be able to offset $50,000 of those costs.
Thank you. So basically, the capital improvement project hasn't really changed since our last meeting, so we hope to see the changes come March, so we can start making some better decisions, right? Thanks, Herschel.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna, I heard somebody calling from outside there. Oh, yeah, okay. I was gonna say there were no audience and there's no questions online, so we'll move forward now with the tennis update.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Larry Plaster. I'm a past president of the tennis club. We got off the board this year, but still am going to present this information for the club. Make sure which one of these goes forward. There we go. The main point of what we want to say is that this project was questioned by a member of this committee as to whether or not participation with the platform tennis courts justified the expense of refurbishing the courts. What we want to show is we don't know what the participation is of the platform courts. When that question was asked, when I agreed to go out and get some data to see what it is, and he presented these two charts. As to participation numbers, these are very deceiving and they're not accurate. In 2024, all of 2024, most of 2025, our platform tennis primary group that played early in the morning, 6 a.m. in the morning. Whenever you check into the tennis tower to play, when a monitor is on duty, if you're a club member, you have to scan in the club track, and you cannot put any information on a sign-in sheet. And the difference is the sign-in sheet has, if you sign in on the sign-in sheet, it has a column for platform tennis, so you can tell what you're playing, whether it's tennis or platform. Club track does not have that. There's no differentiation when you sign into club track what sport you're signing in for. So this data can't be club track data for all of 2024. This is only data from people that signed in on sign-in sheets, either non-member guests or residents that are not a member of the tennis club is where this came from. And what's dangerous about this is it shows an extremely low participation. We won't argue that participation is high, it's not, but it's much higher than this. This is probably a third or less of the actual participation. When all of 24, most of 25, our participants logged into club track. We don't have any idea how many that is. So the decision on whether to fund this project shouldn't be based primarily on participation. We just don't know what it is. We could, one of the things we'd love to see is to upgrade club track to where you could tell what you're signing in for at some point in the future. Because we have the same problem with table tennis. We don't know how many are signing in, but we got 4 tables and 100 table tennis players, and we're running out of room. But if we ever want to justify more room there, we have to be able to know how many are signing in. So even this data, as small as it is, shows an increase of almost 50% between 2024 and 2025. If you actually could see the data, you would see about the same amount, but it'd be a lot more players. We have 70 players, actually 75 in the tennis club, that have an interest in playing platform tennis. Now, right now, of that number, about 20 are actively playing. We have a core group of 12 that play almost every day at 3 p.m., and then another group that play intermittently. So one of the key factors, at one time we had 8 platform tennis courts here. that was reduced to 5 when we put pickleball courts in, and then eventually to 4 when we put court 16 in. But at one time, we had nearly 400 members that played platform tennis here. Why don't we have those today? When you get an experienced player that comes from the East Coast that is a real platform tennis player, and you take them down to those courts, they don't want to play on them. They're full of cracks, they're dead spots, the tension on the screen is not right. You can't play the game the way it's designed to be played. So we lost a lot of members playing platform. They didn't quit the club, they play tennis, most of them, but they don't play platform anymore because of the condition of the courts. So participation, the bottom line is, we shouldn't make this decision based on participation. We don't know what it is. The main decision, well, and there's another part to the participation. We are beginning to use these courts for red ball tennis. Red ball is growing rapidly. We need to make a couple of minor changes to the platform tennis to make red ball playable there. But it's preferable for a lot of people because you don't have to chase the ball to the end of the tennis court to pick it up. You play platform on a tennis court inside the service box. In platform, you just play inside the total area, but the walls contain the board. So that it's growing because of red ball as well. And the platform courts are really a true multi-sport asset that we have here, especially for kids. When you bring your grandkids in and you want to play tennis with your grandkids, if you go out on a tennis court, you're going to spend all your time picking up balls. You can go in there and you can hit dozens of balls in a very short period of time. So you can play any racket sport in there with young kids, with your grandkids. So what we would say is the primary factors that should support the cost of refurbishing these courts is the aesthetics of our facility. We have a world-class tennis facility here. The platform courts haven't been refurbished for more than 30 years, closer to 40 years, and they look like it. And if we go, there's some of the pictures. We have a whole book of pictures, but those are some of the cracks that are actually on the playing surface. There are dead spots. There are holes in the fences. So if you want to, bring a new member in here and say, look, come, let's look at our platform courts, you really don't want to show them. We don't get many new members into the platform because the facility is just, it doesn't play the way it should, and it looks awful. So it falls into the same category of things. It should have been upgraded years ago. There should have been budget in there to upgrade it. I would say the same thing for Coons. The difference is not many visitors see Coons. They don't walk down and look down in the hole. Every visitor that we bring into tennis sees these courts. So we need to bring them up to the standard of the rest of our tennis courts. And the other factor is we have approved a national USTA tournament to be played here in 2027, and we want our facility here to be top notch when we bring those people in. So aesthetics is a primary reason. It just looks awful, and we need to fix that. Another reason that we should keep them as platform and not try to go to some hybrid of platform and red ball only. You can play red ball on a tennis court. You can play red ball on a platform court. You can't play platform on a platform court that's converted to red ball without the proper walls. We have the only platform tennis courts in the state of Arizona, almost the only in the western United States, but it's still a major sport on the East Coast and in the Midwest. So it can be an attraction for people that come to visit from that part of the world. So it needs to look world class, and we need to maintain it as one of our unique capabilities that we have at Sun City West. And it makes no sense to us to try to change some of these courts into red ball tennis courts only. Take away the fence, maybe you might reduce a little bit of cost, but then you eliminate the chance of ever having a robust platform tennis facility here where we could have tournaments and interleagues and that sort of thing. You can't do it with 2 courts. 4 you can, and we have in the past. So it might reduce costs, but it really doesn't. It's not the best thing for the tennis club or for the facility here. So the increased use of the platform courts and the need to have a world-class facility here, we believe justifies the cost of it, keeping this budget in the budget plan for this year. And there's crash. Questions?
Committee, any questions from the committee? Comments? David?
I have one question. In one of your slides, you said that we would be the only platform tennis court area in the state of Arizona. Why are there not other places in the state if there is such a high demand?
Well, I'm not sure I can answer that. All I know for sure is that Dale Webb, when Sun City West was built, he came from the Villages in Florida, and it's huge there. The first courts he built here were the platform courts. So if you don't have, build it and they will come. If you don't have a facility, it's hard to promote that you can play here. So there hasn't been enough demand in the western United States. We don't have that much snow. Platform courts were built to be on a platform so you could shove the snow off the platform and play in the winter. That's why it's called platform. But to justify building platform courts here, there hadn't been enough demand in the western United States. But we can produce enough demand because we have the courts. And if you get somebody from the Villages who wants to come out here and he looks at Sun City or Grand and comes over and says, oh, they got platform courts, I'm going to Sun City West. So it is an attraction for people that come from the East Coast and Midwest that play this sport a lot.
Thank you. Rick?
First of all, I want to thank you for showing up and showing your enthusiasm towards the platform tennis. But there's a couple questions. Can you tell us how platform tennis has increased or decreased over the last 10 years? Second of all, what is red ball? Can you explain to us, some of us that are neophytes, what is red ball? I mean, we hear about its popularity. What is it and how's it played? Third thing is, if it's really that popular on the East Coast, do the Villages have platform tennis?
They have about 20 of them.
Okay. That's just...
All right, so to your first question, how has participation increased or decreased? I wasn't here. I just know back around 2005 to 2010, we had over almost 400 platform tennis players, and about a third of those, 100, played very regularly. As beginning about 10 years ago, as the courts got worse and worse, got more cracks, and getting harder to play on, the better players just stopped playing. So we reduced it down. 2 years ago, we only had 40 players that said they had an interest in platform tennis. Last year, we had 50. So far this year, we have 75. So it went way down, but it is coming back as we introduce it to more people. And if we refurbish the courts, we'll get all those better players that just don't want to play on these courts. So we're confident we'll get 100 or more very quickly if we refurbish these courts. Red ball tennis. This is an effort that was initiated by the USTA. I first played red ball nearly 15 years ago. It was a method developed to teach kids how to play tennis. It's very hard to teach a child, or almost anybody actually, but a child in particular, to play tennis because you spend almost all your time picking up balls. They're small, they're hard to hit. If you miss them, they go to the fence. So red ball, they started playing, it's a bigger ball and it's softer, and you play it with a junior tennis racket, a 23-inch racket. It's a stringed racket, not a paddle. And you play it inside the service box of a tennis court. So if you're familiar with tennis, you serve from the back line, the serve has to go inside this box. So you generally play doubles, you can't play singles, but you serve behind what we call a service line. You start there, it has to go into the service box on the other side, and then you play the point out totally within size of lines of the service box. Several advantages. For one, unlike, it's different from pickleball because you do have to use full, this ball's so soft, you have to use full strokes. So if you're trying to learn to play tennis, it's a great learning tool for anybody to play tennis. If you're older and having back problems like me and you can't move, you don't have to run that much. You move in and out, but not even as much as pickleball. You don't have to get to the no volley zone. So it's good for teaching and it's great for older players with limited mobility. But surprisingly, even our better tennis players, our 4 or 5 level tennis players, the highest level, have been playing red ball and just, they love it. It's a fun game. You know, it's designed to be played on the tennis court, but when you go into the platform courts, the area of the platform courts, the total area, is about the same size as the inside of the service box of the tennis court. It's a little bit longer, a little bit narrower, but it's basically the same size. So you can play it in there, and there's an advantage of the walls where you don't have to go chase the ball. So as we grow red ball, right now we have 2 or 3 courts, 2 days a week, full of red ball, just organized play, and there's a bunch of others that are playing on their own. Eventually, they're going to run out of courts in the morning. At 8 o'clock, our courts are full, and if we go to 4 or 5 red ball courts, it won't be enough. So they'll go to the platform courts because that'll be a place they can play. So we feel confident that use of the platform courts will grow with red ball. Okay. And,
Chris?
Now, there was one more question. What was the last one?
Growth.
Well, I talked about growth. Yes.
We'll just have platform tennis, and how big is it down there? I don't know, so.
Yeah, I don't know how big. I mean, the Villages is huge. You've never been there, but they do have a lot of platform courts, as do most of the resorts on the East Coast. Almost all of them. Huh? I don't know for sure.
So I'm not sure why this is even as much of a discussion as it has been. We have people from the tennis courts telling us that there's a demand. You see it physically. I think the way the stats were presented, Cliff clearly said, we don't have good numbers. Here's what we do have. It's just a sampling. And you said the same thing. But to me, this is something that's on our repair and replacement program that hasn't been touched for 30-something years. There should be money there for it. Maybe it's a little more expensive than we thought it was going to be, or maybe a lot more expensive. But I don't want to get into the business of deferred maintenance for something that there's a need for, that there's a desire for. I can imagine if we closed those down for a little while, rebuilt them, and they look beautiful, that you're going to get a rush of people saying, let me try platform tennis or play red ball on it, or whatever the demand is. So I see this, I don't want to repeat. Plus, I also don't know of if there's another reason why somebody wants that property for something. If that's the case, then let's talk about that. But I don't think that's the case. Maybe it is. Maybe I don't know. But yeah, it sure seems like we have a process in place, and for some reason we're skipping, or we want to skip this process, and I don't understand why. So thanks for your presentation. I thought it was clear. I understood what you were saying. I don't think you and Cliff were saying anything different about the numbers. You were both saying we don't have good numbers. Here's what we have. And then I just value the fact that you're there often and see people playing or hear people talking about it.
And if I may, just to talk to the numbers a little bit. First of all, thank you, Larry, and thank you, Tennis Club, for presenting. Larry and I talked, and I said, look, if the data that we have doesn't help the case to refurbish the courts and all platform tennis, then You have to make the case, so get on the agenda, and he's done that. What I'll say about the numbers is that the numbers that were presented are tracked numbers, so they're valid. The data is valid. There are times when platform tennis is playing that we're not capturing data. And one of the things that I've found out since presenting this data is the data that's entered in here is data from the POS or from TEI. So you come in and swipe your member card. The data for Club Track is all club-related activity. And I did state that some of the data in Club Track, which is why I presented the tennis data, which was all Club Track last time, some of the data in there is for platform tennis. Some of the data also in there is for table tennis. So that was explained when I presented the data. Since then, we went in January. We went from January 5th to January 25th and manually tracked all play at the tennis courts during club time. And what we found was that no one that period during club time was playing platform tennis. They were all playing after club time, which was tracked in this data because they were all from sign-in sheets. So now their drop and play for club for platform tennis now is after 3 o'clock. We monitor the tennis courts from 6 a.m., well, 5:30 a.m. They open at 6 to 10:30, Monday through Saturday. So there's even a day in there that we're not capturing any data for platform tennis. But I wanted to show the growth year over year, and then I wanted the tennis club to explain why it's important to take, there's no doubt that that space needs to be renovated. Everybody agrees with that. It's on the reserve study. It has to be done. The question that's being presented and the justification behind how we do it is really the question at hand. Do we make it all back to platform tennis? Or do we look at the usage of platform tennis and decide that, maybe these need to be more multi-purpose areas, partially platform tennis? That question has to be answered. That's going to be justified through the data that's given to you from what I've given you, and then mostly what tennis has to provide for you for information and feedback. And then that's going to help inform you on those decisions and the board ultimately on how it gets done.
Well, and again, make sure we capture what Larry was mentioning, that there's people that don't play because of the shape, right? There'd be interest in platform tennis, which is, we don't have data for. That might be something you'd have to survey or ask people or something of the sort.
But again, like this data, as he said, when you see the entries, we're playing. All of the data he presented here was before we started playing platform at 3 in the afternoon. For years, we played at 6 in the morning. Playing at 3 in the afternoon by itself is growing more. There's more people that don't want to get up at 5 to go play, so we're in more. But some of this 2025 data doesn't show anything after 7 a.m. It shows play starting at 5 a.m. That's not actual. The monitors take the sign-in sheets, the paper sheets from the day before, and they enter them when they get to work the next day. So this is the entry time, not play time. Just so everybody's clear on that. But we don't believe there's any other better multi-purpose use for that space. And I don't know, we don't believe making it red ball. Red ball's growing and we support it, and it's going to grow, but making it red ball only eliminates growth of platform and doesn't do much for red ball. You can already play red ball in there. So what else would we do with it?
Don?
I have a concern from the standpoint that we have tennis courts over at the Kuntz Center that are in horrible shape, and they should have been redone years ago, and they're still not even on here. That would, I would think, if we would redo those courts, you'd be able to have specific courts for red ball or platform tennis or regular tennis. But we haven't included those things. It's not on our list anymore. It was earlier, but it's gone now.
Yeah, that's all part of master planning. That area is identified as an opportunity area. So in the grand scheme, the big picture, what Ms. Jacobs was talking about earlier when we're doing these certain projects, we got to look at the whole picture and what that area could be. So that's why that's not on the list. But we definitely are fully aware, and we have been for the last, ever since I've been here, it's been brought up. What do we do with that space?
Why has it not been redone, period?
Because the space is being looked at in a broader picture, not just for tennis, but just in a broader picture in general. That's why it hasn't been, and that's why it's not on the list to be done.
We have a resident, Christine?
As the president of the governing board, I'm an ex officio member of all committees, so I'm here just to add a little context, if you wouldn't mind, Madam Chair, to answer you, Dawn, and to all the questions. This comes up a lot. I've been on the governing board. I'm finishing my 3-year term, and I was on the Budget and Finance Committee prior to that. So vis-a-vis the tennis court facility, or the court facility, because it's multi-purpose at Kuntz, the governing board, this has come up many times, and I have to be honest, the governing board is the one that 2 years ago made I believe it was 2, it might have been 3, made the decision to defer repair only because we were waiting for the master plan to be presented. I'm sorry, this is a circular argument, and I do regret having to say this. At that time, we were told, the governing board was told the master plan was being finished and we would have that in a matter of months. That was not the case, which is why we're now creating a master plan that, again, as Mickey had mentioned, so many of these decisions are circular. I'm not proposing that this is the same argument, but I just wanted to go back to Kuntz and assure you and the residents and everyone on the committee that no one's forgotten about Kuntz. At the time, it was the governing board's decision, not the operating team's decision, to defer that maintenance. So as a governing board member, I do accept the responsibility for that decision, if you will. It was made with the best interests of the association in mind. So no one's forgotten. It will definitely be renovated. It must be renovated. That should have no bearing on what's happening to Platform, because we do have a master plan that's being created right now, thankfully, that will help us understand how to home our racket sports. I hope that helps. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that feedback. I see any other questions from the committee? David?
I just got a question. It may sound like I'm stupid here, but how many courts are we actually speaking of here? And if we were in the future, but first of all, I want to thank you for coming, and what you did, your presentation has been very helpful to me, and I think for the rest of those that have interest in this issue. So again, thank you. How many courts are we speaking of? And if in the future we needed to, there was a change in demographic interest upon going towards red ball, what would be the cost, or what would be the necessary infrastructure cost to change something from a platform to a red ball court, such as something like that? Just curious.
Well, your answer to your first question is we have 4. And it would be hard to say that to refurbish the courts for Platform, we of course need a new surface. Platform, you play off of the walls, very similar to racquetball, but it's a wire mesh wall. And it's a tension wall so that when the ball hits it, it will go a distance back into the court that gives you time to hit it. So there's no reason that you can't play red ball on all 4 courts exactly as they are. There's minor changes in the area. You need a line. One thing that's not there today in the play area, red ball needs a line down the middle of the court because they serve into the whole court, and it's hard to tell whether you're at the middle line or not. But to turn it into this red ball only, you'd tear the fence down. Maybe you have to put something up. You can't have the balls rolling out into the pavilion area, and you'd widen the court by 6 inches and shorten it by 12 to make it only red ball. So it just makes no sense when we can play red ball very well inside a platform court.
Thank you. So I hope that for all of you who are viewing this presentation, either now or later, remember to go onto the website and make your comments and make your voice heard. I can't stress this enough, that the information that we receive through the master planning process, through the surveys, through the questionnaires, through the comments, those things are absolutely critical. And I think that some of those things are going to affect this committee's ability to make a decision on exactly how to make adjustments or changes to the tennis courts and the platform courts. We want to do everything that's best for the community that's here now and for the ones that we think we can bring here as a result of doing that. I don't believe anybody on this committee wants to see those courts fall into the same condition that we've seen Kuntz and just keep kicking that can down the road. But I do think that what I'm hearing from the committee, at least, is that we want to make sure that the utilization of that area is at its most highly utilized functionality, not just a one and done kind of thing. So we want to make the repairs, we want to make sure that the courts are safe, we want to make sure things are right, but we want to make sure that we're getting the highest utilization, because despite the conversation about numbers don't really matter, anybody that's lived in this community for more than a couple of years know that numbers really matter. And if you're a club that wants dedicated space, you have to justify and validate that you have members and players and things that are utilizing that space. If there are issues with Club Track or whichever process it is, we should get together with that part of operations and make sure that we make the modifications to Club Track so that we can capture valid information. Because if this is going to become a more valid, up-and-coming, growing sport, we need to have that data. We need to separate table tennis out from platform tennis, from whatever, right? So I'm looking to the operations group to help us make the modifications to Club Track so we don't go through this discussion about, well, we got 32, no, we got 52, no, there's really 120. We need to have some more valid data if we can get that. So I would ask operations to please make that an objective for us to make sure we get that data correctly. And then the committee will take this under consideration as we get better numbers.
Yeah, we're looking at adding those different types of check-ins with Club Track. Yeah. And those sign-in sheets, we had 25 members, distinct members. Of the 32 that checked in, 25 of them were club members. So I hope that gives some insights into the club people that are playing. 32 overall on the sign-in sheets in 2025. 25 of them were tennis club members. So he said there's 70 tennis club members that would be interested in playing platform tennis. So I think that that's good data for information. And then as far as going forward, we'll have some more distinct data on the total check-ins. Approximately 18,000 check-ins at tennis. We'll have some more distinct data of how many of those 18,000 during Club Track time were attributable to table tennis and platform tennis.
Okay, I think we've taken this topic. Oh, you have one more, Bill?
Just a brief comment. I strongly concur with your talk about data, and I wonder if this isn't another big picture issue where, regardless of all the clubs, why, if we're users of the data, then we have as much interest as they do, and we need to make sure that all clubs are assessing all of their sub-clubs. And I even think of things like the Metal Club. What's the usage on each machine when it's time for one of them to be replaced or repaired maybe you get rid of it because nobody's using it anymore, or very few. The Wood Club, I'm sure there's a lot of clubs that have different segments where there is data that is just as important to us as it is to the club, and we should somehow ensure that somehow our IT systems are capturing what everyone needs, and instead of everybody individually replicating, these systems.
We have the technology. Make it happen, please. So I think we've beaten this horse enough for this meeting. So we'll move on now. I see no questions online and nobody coming toward the mic from the audience. So we'll move on to 4.03, financial plan review. Mr. Swan.
Okay, just wanted to, this really is just to get this out in the community, obviously to make the committee aware. We've got a lot of returners. I kind of remember probably from last year what the calendar entails over the next couple of months, but just wanted to put that on the agenda, remind everybody some key dates. You'll see on there those over 50,000 item pullouts to be voted on individually. We talked about that a little bit earlier. So those are, these are the deliverable dates, okay? So pay attention to this calendar, reference it when you're trying to find out when things are due. But this is a timeline of what that looks like for the budget cycle. And you'll see our next BNF meeting, the 17th, is the first draft of the operating budget. Yeah. So what we'll be including in the operating budget process this year, there'll be a whole discussion and conversation around master plan and how we allocate that in the overall budget and what that looks like and what the impact of those things would be in future years and modeled out. So we'll be discussing that in depth at all committees, but that'll be a big part of the budget process this year.
Any comments or questions about the timeline? I see none. I see none online, and no one in the audience seems to be coming to the podium. Thank you, Cliff, for that presentation. Appreciate it very much. We'll move to 5.01 for committee comments. I'll start down here with you, Bill. Do you have any additional comments?
No, just another tidbit regarding data. I'm sure that this must have an impact on strategic planning too. If you don't have the data, you can only resort to opinions and subjective information. So I think data collection would be very important for future strategic planning.
Rick?
The only thing I question is what our APF funds are going to be next year, because that's really the driving force behind the money we use for capital and capital projects. So these projects were all, brought up to us that this is what they want, or what I'll call a wish list. If we don't have enough capital coming in from APF funds, are we going to reduce this list? Anything like that? Because then that directly impacts our reserve fund. So.
Dave?
I had written down during this presentation of the tennis thing, similar to what Bill had said, and I think it comes to a summary. I don't want to hold them to any higher standard that we would hold any other club relative to participation. I also think it points to a bigger issue revolving on how we're going to change in the future as demographics change in the community and interest change upon clubs, particular participation in new things that we haven't even thought of today, and how we're going to gather the data in a policy that will then say this is how we do it. But I think that if you go back to Deming and what he talked about, if you don't measure, you can't change or correct. And so I think that points to what is part of the master plan process, and that is what does our infrastructure need for IT during the future to make objective and fair assessment as to what our needs are going to be in the future. And that was, I put that down during this thing. I don't think we should hold anyone to a higher standard. And again, it really points to the fact upon the master plan is very important. They're doing a great job, and I recommend anybody in the community to look at what they're doing and see how you can participate in that. Just one thing, I just want to thank the tennis club for coming and making the presentation. It was enlightening to me to see and understand how all the different types of tennis work, because I'm not really a tennis player, so I appreciate that. And I think also just seeing those pictures of the court and hearing about the dead spots is reason enough to redo them. So that's all I have.
Yeah, I'll go back and mention the Kuntz courts. I was here, we had a ton of discussion on the Kuntz courts, just a ton. And it was a hot potato between, you know, what should we spend the money on? What should we do with it? Is there a demand for it? And I think our governing board president said it correctly, is that it said, you know, there's a chunk of property that can have a purpose, but let's think about it, because the existing purpose didn't seem like there was a desire for it. So if anyone has interest in watching that, I think Properties and Budget and Finance Committee dedicated hours to the Kuntz Court, along with presentation. And I just don't want to compare the two, because they're really like apples and oranges, right? One is a done deal that we know we're going to deal with. The other one is, in my opinion, I think there's a demand, but that we should repair.
John?
Yeah, I just want to talk about the master plan as well. We're so close to getting the master plan, and we've been waiting, and it's here, and people are working hard on it, and it's going to provide us a lot of direction. And from the budget and finance position, it would just be so painful for some of these larger projects to go ahead with them, and 6 months from now or 9 months from now realize the master plan says, oh wait, we should have done something different. And we are just so close to getting that. I just want to make sure that anything that we decide to do, we're confident that it would be consistent with the master plan.
Agreed.
You know, my biggest concern is the master plan is going to be out months from now. It's not going to be done overnight. And we have so many decisions we have to make in order to get this stuff done and the capital projects done correctly. And I'm torn between waiting and getting it done now. And I'm not sure which way we should go.
No comment.
I think that's a very good point. But I also want to say I am very pleased that we were able to hear from the tennis club, because not unlike lawn bowling last year, is that many of us don't know, right? We didn't know. We did not know what they were doing, how many players, is it important? And so I think that gave us some very good perspective. I think the fact that it is potentially multi-purpose is helpful. But again, our job on the Finance Committee is to ask questions and to find out where does it fit into the broader picture, whether it is this year's budget, whether it's master plan, whether it's 25 years from now. That is our job. And so to the extent that it feels difficult at times, because we are pushing back, that is what we've been asked to do. We have been asked to be fiduciaries of the owner, operators, concerns, and finances. And I think that this process that we are going through is just a good demonstration of that.
Okay, I see no comments online, and I see no audience members coming to the podium. So I will make my final comments. I don't believe that the tennis court repair, replace is an option. I think it's an absolute must-do. It's disheartening to walk into such a beautiful facility as we have in our tennis court area, and then look behind you and see this ground that looks like, it's been ripped up and torn apart, and there's locks on the gates and things like that. So I hate to see any property fall into this state of disrepair, that it can't even be used. I mean, you couldn't even play Foursquare out there if you wanted to right now. It's so dangerous. So I don't think it's a matter of, do we need to do it? I think it's an absolute that we have to do it in order to keep the community up and going. I think that our responsibility is going to say, if we tear it up and we put it back together, what should it look like when it's done? How multi-purpose should those courts be? Should they only be allowed for red ball or platform tennis or whatever it might be? And I think that's where we need to make our assessment. That's my view, right? The view on how we're going to handle things with ARC and the renovations for the club, that's obviously a huge decision. It's a huge decision for the club itself, that they need to take a vote. Do they want to take on $1 million worth of debt that they're going to repay to us? Do we think that the debt that they're asking to borrow is going to be repaid in a reasonable period of time at a reasonable interest rate or any interest rate whatsoever? And what about the glass and the costs and the functionality? And is it going to be a 24/7 type of situation? Those are all valid questions. So those are the kinds of things that this committee is looking to get the answers on. So I don't believe that the repair and replace of the tennis courts is an option. It's an absolute must-do. What we need to decide is, what are we going to set as the parameters or the goals for how that gets done? Okay? So with that, I want to make 2 comments. One is to my daughter, happy birthday. I just gave birth like 5 minutes ago, 45 years ago. And a shout out to my friend Sandy Owens, who watches us faithfully every meeting and then calls me up to tell me all the things I did wrong. So no, she calls me up to say what a great job the committee's doing. And I hear a lot of positive things from the community on the questions that we ask and the discussions that we have. So I want to thank everybody on the committee for being open, sharing your points of view, and listening to each other in such a collaborative way. Any other comments? No other comments? Nothing online? So the next Budget and Finance meeting is going to be February 17th in this room at 9 o'clock. It is 10:22, and we are going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.